If I was ever to do a video on my top 5 Zelda games, there's one game long-time viewers will know probably wouldn't be on that list, Majora's Mask. I've said many times that it is a good game, and it's on my list of games I want to replay. I just prefer a lot of other Zelda games, but there's one thing from the game that I love, and that's Majora's Mask itself. It's a great looking mask, and I even have the first 4 figures life-size replica of it. The fight against Majora's Mask, Incarnation and Wrath is one of my all-time favourite final boss battles, and for years I've been hoping for a game where Ganondorf gets hold of Majora's Mask. Imagine what could happen if the King of Evil was able to get his hands on Majora's Mask. Their powers combined would create a force so powerful it would be like nothing we've ever seen before. Now, I know what you're thinking. At the end of Majora's Mask, the Happy Mask salesman states the evil has left the mask after all, so if Ganondorf was able to get his hands on it, it would just make for a snazzy Halloween mask, so the two being able to combine their powers together can't happen. I was so disappointed when I realised this. Something I had hoped for so long and would be so awesome suddenly became impossible. Or so I thought. I recently realised there was a chance. Similarities have been made between Majora's Mask and the fused shadow in Twilight Princess, with the two items possibly being one and the same, and originally this was going to be a video comparing the fight with Majora's Wrath and the fight with Zant, but it was during the making of that video I had a sudden realisation. But before I delve into it, I don't normally mention this in video, but in case you didn't know, I'm on Twitter at Hyrule's Defender, where you can see various posts on programs and films I've been watching, games I'm playing, stuff that relates to the channel and all sorts. I'm also on Patreon, so if you can help me out at all on there, I would be extremely grateful. Links to both are in the description, so with that, let's get on with things. To summarise what the video regarding Majora's Wrath and Zant was going to be about, a few of the moves Zant has are very reminiscent of Majora's Wrath. Majora's Wrath has whips coming out of his hands, and one of the moves he uses a lot is to spin on his left leg, allowing the whips to circle around him. During the battle with Zant, he also has a move where he spins on his left leg, holding out his scimitars to grind up Link. One of Majora's Wrath's more annoying moves is a continuous series of whips which, unless you can block straight away, you're going to get hit with several times. You may remember Zant has a rather similar move where he gradually walks towards you doing pretty much the same animation, just using his scimitars instead of the whips. Also, the crazy erratic movements of Majora's Incarnation are rather reminiscent of Zant himself. Granted, you don't get Zant doing the moonwalk or that Russian squat dance, which apparently is called the Prysiadka, but they do both have a move where they shoot multiple projectiles at Link. I'm not entirely sure what I was trying to prove or suggest with that video. I guess I was just clutching at straws that as Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess both take place in the child timeline, that maybe the theory of the relationship between Majora's Mask and the fused shadow was true, so then maybe there was a chance that Ganondorf could obtain even some of its power. During the credits, the fused shadow is seen half buried, so Ganondorf could get his hands on it, and then I had a sudden thought that changed everything. The timeline. Yes, both games take place in the same section of the timeline, but what about the others? Allow me to explain. We all know the timeline splits into 3 paths due to the events of Ocarina of Time, and I'm sure you've all seen videos before explaining what happened, so I'll keep this part brief. 2 of the paths are where Link defeats Ganondorf and saves the day. At the end of the game, Zelda sends Link back in time to catch up on the time he lost when he was sealed in the Sacred Realm. After the credits, Link is seen approaching Zelda and as he remembers everything, tells her what will happen. Ganondorf's plan is foiled before it even gets off the ground, which creates the child timeline and leads to the events of Majora's Mask. The adult timeline is where Link battled against Ganondorf and Ganondorf was sealed in the evil realm. Link was sent back in time, but eventually Ganondorf was able to escape the evil realm, Hyrule was flooded, and eventually the events of the Wind Waker occur. In the third branch of the timeline, Link dies. Although it's not known exactly when he dies, it's usually considered to be during the final battle against Ganondorf, because Ganondorf obtains the Triforce of Courage from Link, as well as the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda, and conquers Hyrule, creating the Downfall timeline, which leads to the events of A Link to the Past. Now, in Ocarina of Time, the Happy Mask salesman only appears during the child section, and when the events of Majora's Mask start, he has found Majora's Mask but was mugged by Skull Kid. Link, having foiled Ganondorf's plan, heads off on his quest, also gets mugged by Skull Kid, who is now wearing Majora's Mask, and Epona is stolen. Link gives chase and ends up in Termina. Link bumps into the Happy Mask salesman, who tells him about the mask and the desperate need to get it back. Link manages to do this, and due to Majora's Wrath's defeat, the mask is left powerless. So what would have happened if Link hadn't turned up? All this only happens when Link defeats Ganondorf and is then sent back in time. So what if he wasn't sent back? What if he died trying to collect the spiritual stones, or he was sealed away for 7 years, never entering the forest where Epona gets stolen, which is exactly what happens in the other timelines. If the Happy Mask salesman went in search of the mask after Ganondorf's imprisonment in the child timeline, then in the other timelines, the mask could still be hidden away somewhere, just waiting for some poor unfortunate soul to come along. If he already has the mask during Ocarina of Time, but keeps it hidden out the way because of its evil power, he could still have been mugged by Skull Kid, and no child turns up to stop the moon from crashing, or he doesn't get mugged and carries on doing whatever it is he does. Either way, the mask would still be out there, full powered. When Skull Kid steals the mask and Epona, they are still in Hyrule. The Zelda Encyclopedia states the combination of the Skull Kid's burdened heart and the evil magic within Majora's Mask transforms the world into the land of Termina, which means Termina didn't exist until after Skull Kid put the mask on, which means the mask would probably have been hidden somewhere in Hyrule or at least nearby. It was here in the script I remembered something. Majora's Mask does appear in the Downfall timeline, on the wall in Link's house in A Link Between Worlds. As this is a timeline where Link didn't go to Termina, unless someone else stepped in and saved the day, the power would still remain within the mask. The mask takes over the mind of whoever wears it, and all you can do in A Link Between Worlds is to turn into a picture on the wall and stand behind the mask so he's not actually wearing it, and as it's on display, it's likely that Link never put the mask on, keeping it more for aesthetic purposes rather than practical. What happened to it after the events of A Link Between Worlds in the original Zelda games is unknown, so it could be out there somewhere, and even if you say that the mask appearing in A Link Between Worlds is just an Easter egg rather than a canon appearance, that just means it's still wherever it was originally hidden away. Breath of the Wild takes place thousands of years after supposedly all 3 of the timelines, and is what's merging them into one again, so it could well be that the source of the new Ganondorf's power stems from his discovery of a full-powered Majora's Mask. I very much doubt it, but you never know. Maybe there'll be a future game where these 2 evil powerhouses collide and we can find out which evil entity will be able to control the other. Only time will tell.